Hey everyone, I'm on the road today, but I wanted to jump on here and make a video talking about different health compulsions that many people are falling into. This goes well beyond the realms of, even just OCD and anxiety sufferers. I think this is something that many people are falling for, and they're really not living in many ways. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy. You might be thinking, what do you mean by that? There's a great quote that Rob sent me the other day that said most people die at 25, but they're not buried until 75. And that's a quote that could use some deciphering, because people might look at that at face value and say, I don't know what you mean. But what we mean is most people are so trapped by societal beliefs, compulsive behaviors with health mechanisms, tracking apps, the perfect sleep this, the perfect heart tracking machine, that we're really not even living anymore. And we're just living this pre-planned life of perfection, the idea of perfection, and things really kind of become a problem. So before I go any further, please subscribe. Again, this video is not specifically for OCD and anxiety sufferers. You could show this to your friends. I'm not sure they'll agree or not, because a lot of people hold a lot of their identity, unfortunately, to these type of things, and they get very offended when you could possibly say that, hey, this might not be that good for you. And if you're interested in our coaching and webinar services, if you think you're doing a lot of these behaviors, please email us at phil@ocdrecovery.com. Okay, the first thing I want to start out with, not all of these, if the majority of them, are not inherently bad. Some people, it's good, and not in the sense of where I'm not going to be able to know myself when it comes to OCD, mixing up what your values are, but it's good to have a slight idea of what you're particularly prone to becoming a problem with. I'll give you an example. Jim and Sally come in. Sally can balance alcohol, no problem. A couple times a month, glass of wine, and Jim can't. Jim drinks 10 beers a day. It's his number one coping strategy. There's a good chance that Jim will not be able to drink alcohol for the remainder of his life. Many people don't like hearing that, because we're trying to change the verbiage on what sobriety means. There's only one definition of sobriety. It's no drugs, no alcohol. It doesn't mean you're not drinking and still smoking weed. There's only one definition. I've seen so many of my friends go down this route who cut out drinking and they left that, and it was a problem. Get a little off topic there, but it is important to highlight that, because then you can have some sort of an awareness, but you'll never know for sure what you can potentially fall prey to. So let's start with exercise. Are workout programs inherently bad? No. I'm going to just make sure my car doesn't shut off because it's very hot. And I'll be sweating on the video. So are workout programs inherently bad? No. Is MyFitnessPal inherently bad? No. Are they necessary? No. Most things in life aren't necessary. Are they usually subtle ways for control that actually take the joy out of just eating and then working out? Probably. Was for me. Was for most people in the fitness industry. What happens is when you're too tied to a program, when you're too tied to a tracking app like MyFitnessPal or counting your macros, while there are time and place for that, it becomes so non-intuitive, where you're actually sitting with the uncertainty of just eating and eating how you want, imbalance. Sometimes you overeat, sometimes you don't, and you go in that regard, that it actually puts you in this place to where you're really not even living your life anymore. If you're taking a notebook to the gym, I did this for 10 years. I counted my macros for 10 years. It was all part of my body dysmorphia, all fear of not having muscle, fear of being overweight, fear of not being in control, perfectionism. So there's that. Now, sports. Now, if you're at the high level sports, we work with people all the way ranging from professional athletes to high schoolers that play, junior varsity. We understand that your sport is probably going to be surrounded by different types of tracking mechanisms, but they do need to be watched. You don't have to actually go with what the coach recommends. They're not the universal ruler. If you say to them, hey, look, I don't think this is a good thing for me, I don't want to use it, and they kick you off the team, you can accept that. This is going to be very difficult for some people to hear. And I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but one of the best things about sport is just practicing your sport without all these tracking measures. People did just fine 20, 30 years ago without all these tracking measures. You're really hindering your life in many ways that I see when you're struggling with the perfectionistic behaviors. Sleep. Okay, so sleep tracking apps, or the invention of the Apple Watch has been a nightmare for people that have OCD and anxiety-based problems, because they're constantly tracking all this stuff. I was on the phone the other day, and I was saying that when I was in the gym, there was an app, and that app now you can download it and put your thumbs, and it will do a live EKG at all times. That is a nightmare. Total nightmare. Again, there's certain people, diabetes, people who have to check their blood sugar. We get it. Balance is key. Remember, you're not going to have a line in the sand on what's the correct amount of time, what's the least correct amount of time. Same thing with social media. But there's a lot, and it's only going to get worse. I was making a joke the other day that the world is slowly moving into one gigantic bubble of becoming a hypochondriac. And I don't mean that in a mean way, because I know the struggle of OCD myself, just like anyone. But it is very, very, very true. To disregard that would be naive in many ways. So the tracking stuff is becoming a problem when it comes to sleep and becoming to health measures and stuff like that. We get it. Like I said, some people have to check stuff because of their health. We understand. Blood work, there's really almost never a need for blood work more than once a year. Almost never. Again, I'm going to get some kickback on that. These are hard pills to swallow. Finance. Okay, so depending on what you do, maybe you're in the world of finance. Maybe you're a trader. Maybe you track stuff and you own a business. A lot of people have two different types. Well, they'll avoid and they never want to look at their stuff, their bank statements, because that's an avoidance behavior. Balance lies in the middle, of course, in many things, not most things. But the other side of that is constantly tracking everything, every single penny. Did I overspend? Did I underspend? We're not saying about you go out there and be irresponsible and open up 10 credit cards and max them out. We're talking that as a human being, you're probably going to slip up here and there. You might have an extra coffee or two that you didn't think you wanted to afford, or maybe you spent a little bit too much on that vacation. That is not the end of the world. Now, it will feel like the end of the world because of the way society puts a lot of pressure on people living a financially intelligent life, but it's just not that simple. Humans make mistakes, etc., etc. So remember so far, fitness and health tracking apps, sleep-related ones, and remember with the health ones, if it carries into, if you have something like type 2 diabetes, it's going to be difficult, right? Because your brain is going to go automatically, should I check this, should I not check this, etc., etc. Obviously, handle all that with your provider, but it is really important to talk about it from that angle because your brain will hyper obsess about all that stuff. The finance one, like we said. Okay, the fourth one, OCD tracking apps. There's never a need for those. That is something that's pretty clear cut. Never. No need whatsoever. They perpetuate compulsive tracking, compulsive rumination and analyzing. Am I doing this too much, too little? Adding extra gasoline on the fire. That's not really a good thing at all. And you have to become better with the uncertainty if you're doing something incorrectly. Am I doing this too much? Am I doing this too little? How do I know if I'm doing this correctly? How do I know if I'm doing it too much? So I've never seen a positive story. In the tracking apps, there's going to be more and more and more of those. But we want to be aware of the potential detriments that they're going to have on our recovery process. I've never met anyone who's used a tracking app that has made significant progress and not used it compulsively. Just something I've seen. I've worked with a lot of people now, between the webinars and the coaching services. I have a lot of people that come in and they might be using these tracking apps, then they're compulsively like, I need to get this perfect. I have to get this right. So everything that we're talking about, all these health tracking apps, these tracking measures, they're not all inherently bad. I have to reiterate that, but if they're not watched, it can become a really big problem because you're always chasing this relief and this certainty, okay? So let me tell you about how I live my life, because maybe some of you are thinking, well, you said you did some of these, you did these for counting the macros in the programming. What works the best for you? Okay, I go to the gym 5 days a week. I know what I'm going to work out. Sometimes if I do a workout outside, I just do it. My wife does F45 and Orange Theory, which is these like fitness classes. I'm sure if you live in America or other places, you have stuff like that where you go there with a community, similar to CrossFit in ways. So I know what I'm going to work out on the days, and I just work out and have fun. Some things I keep in order, some things I don't, but I change things around, and I don't really have too much thought about it. I have concern, but not over concern. I eat 3-4 times a day. Sometimes I overeat, sometimes I don't. I like to keep cookies in my fridge. Erica's like, why are we putting the Oreos in the refrigerator? She's like, then you can't twist them. I'm like, relax, okay? Let me have my Oreos in the refrigerator. You know what I mean? I got the Reese's cookies in there too. Yeah, they make fun of me for that. So like yesterday, I try to have a serving or two a day. Sometimes I have 4. So, and people are like, that's so unhealthy. I like cigars. I like good conversations in the cigar bar, so I go there once or twice a month. Well, people were like, oh my God, that's so unhealthy, but I realize I'm not going to live forever. And if you told me right now I had to live till 90 and live a very safe, meticulous tracking life, or die in 5 years from now and live exactly how I want to live, I'm dying in 5 years from now. I'm signing my name on that paper tomorrow. Right now. Kill me in 5 years. I'm not living till 90 in that regard. I can live with that, but I wouldn't want to do that because that's not living to me. That's the quote, you're dying at 25, but you're not being buried until you're 70. And I think it is really important to cover that. I don't use any sleep tracking anything. I have an idea. I get up most days at 5 in the morning. Sometimes I go to sleep at like 9:45. Sometimes I go to sleep at 10:30. A lot of times it's like 10:30 to 10:45. My dogs wake me up a lot. I don't really have anything with that. I don't track anything with OCD at all. There's no need to. That doesn't mean I wasn't doing my homework on paper. I just wasn't meticulously tracking that stuff. In finances, I own a business with my wife, and just as a healthy, balanced adult, we keep track. We have business meetings, but I'm not overly concerned. Things go wrong, things don't go wrong, and then we kind of adjust from there. It's not that you're never going to track something in your life again. It's the reality that the majority of the way that people are tracking are becoming a compulsive chase for relief and the subtle for control. So if you haven't watched Rob's recent video on control mechanisms, that's a really good video to watch. And again, the last thing I want to say is there is no line in the sand. You're going to feel confused. Am I doing this too much? Is it a compulsion? Is it an avoidance behavior? So forth, so forth. Thank you so much for watching this video. This is not easy to hear. A lot of people that come in and work with me with fitness and sports and perfectionism, all the way up to, like I said, the professional athlete level, you're going to be surrounded by it. Just like I say, when you have POCD, no one's going to understand it. It's dead end. They're not going to understand OCD regardless, but it's a total dead end. So understanding that and taking that risk that people are going to be surrounded by you doing these tracking measures. I go to a very serious bodybuilding gym, like heavy iron metal plates. People have their notebooks out. There's no trigger. I'm not like, oh my gosh, I wish I was doing that. I look at it almost in another way. I would say, oh wait, I wish, it'd be nice if they could go to the gym and they wouldn't have to do that. They might enjoy it a little bit more. Because exercise to me is fun now. It's a lot more fun and not this meticulously tracking nightmare that I found myself in for 10 years, which fueled my body dysmorphia. Thank you so much for watching again. Please comment down below. Let me know of any stuff you want me to do videos on. I keep a 7-day log and I cross them out and I just make sure there's at least 5 to 7 videos in line, stuff I want to talk about, and we'll go from there. And remember, Phil at OCDrecovery.com, and hope to hear from you soon. Have a good one, everyone.